on early education in the Niger Delta region, then the role of parents, teachers, government, communities, and students themselves to mitigate the effects. You have that. Effect of climate change on early education in the Niger Delta region. Okay, is there? Distinguished audience, you see what's on the board? And we are here to talk about this. This is season 1, panel discussion. I'm just the moderator. The experts are here to discuss. And it's my privilege to call on the very first person. I think I have the meter bar to pick whosoever I want. To call on the second presenter of the paper is going to be my first here to tell us again what he meant by that climate change. Mr. Ediansen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I find it indeed a privilege to be doing a back-to-back talk here today. Talking about climate change, I remember I had wanted to add this to my presentation. Climate change is a change in weather pattern for a long, I want to put it as simple as possible, for a long period of time. Scientists will say 30 years. And that makes it different from weather. Weather is a change in the condition of the climatic condition for a period of time. It can be hours, can be within a day or that. But climate change takes a longer time. The changes we observed in the weather pattern for a very long period of time, say a period of approximately 10 or 30 years.
I'll still get back to you. Now let me go back to, I have my structural questions. I want to ask Dr. Felix Paul. Now, state the effect of climate change on early education in the Niger Delta. What did you say of those effects? Yes. What would you say? I know you're listening.
Thank you very much. I want to first re-emphasize the fact that climate change is not just changes in climate. The climate change are observed changes over a period. It means there are statistical, there are observable, and they are reportable. Now, in the Delta region where we find ourselves, it's a complex region, because in this region we have complexity of vegetation, complexity of industrial activities, especially the exploitation of crude, and this, to a very large extent, is not complementary with our attention to the environment. So the question as to what are the changes in the Niger Delta region, it is necessary that we understand what the Delta region is. The Delta region is first an oil-producing region. Secondly, it is a coastal region. And then again, it is a region that is vast with biodiversity. Now, putting this together, what are those changes observed? Number one, we are losing our biodiversity. We are losing the complexity of vegetation. We're losing plants and animals. And I will ask here, how many of us know there's something known as snake tomato? Yeah. It used to be there. It's no more there. It's no more there. Things like panda, they are very rare today. That is because there are these changes due to the extinction of both plants and animals. So we also have coastal problems such as coastal erosion. We have saltwater intrusion and all of that. We are losing so many things. And bringing it down to education, this effect we are having in the environment, mind you, we are not just a product of our environment. Our environment is also a product of us. So it must be complementary, you must understand this. So while you are waiting for the environment to produce you, the environment will only produce you as much as you produce the environment. So the Niger Delta region is both the people and the persons, and then the environment itself. I hope we can get to explain this better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please, are we getting something? Yes. They're refreshing our minds. Now we want to move on to the next. During the paper presentation, I think when the global teacher was giving his paper, he told us what students are to do, what parents are to do, the communities and teachers. I want to ask Mr. Isaac to help us. What roles do we expect from parents and then from the student? No, take government first. From the government and then the parents. What are those things we should look out for?
Thank you, the moderator. Thank you, the audience. It is very excellent that climate change has really impacted negatively on us and our children, our students, and everybody. So we need not to fold our hands. The government needs to take the bull by the horn and address one of the ways government should come into the edge of our students who are most at risk, because the students are not very conscious of the environment and they need to be directed and shown the way. The government should make out policies that will introduce environmental consciousness in the curriculum in schools, so that teachers should embark on training the students in classes. That's one of the ways. Government should also bring out stringent measures to punish environmental damages, those that causes damages to the environment, those that causes blockages to our gutters, those that causes pollution, just like in some of our residences. If you have like 10 persons living in the house and all of them put on their generator, this high-pass microwave generator, the noise pollution that will come from there, the fuel that will come from the exhaust pipe will be very disastrous. So government should set up some panels to go around and monitor these activities and also bring out some measures to stop that, if not completely eradicated. Then the parents should also not fold their hands. The parents are really at the center point of this, because we want our children to come out successful, healthy, and good in the future. So if we don't catch them young, that means we expect a negative implication of this climate change in the life of our younger ones. No parent will want his or her what not to be healthy, not to be educated, not to be informed. So we need to guide them, just like what I said earlier. The parents should also inculcate in their children the love for the environment. They should take away the fear they always inculcate in their children. When they say a tree, a big tree that is standing is full of witches and wizards. And if you go to some communities, you are going to see, you may not see any big tree standing there. So if the parents are able to tell their children when they are still young inside that it is not so, we should allow the trees to stand. We should allow the animals that we see to be there. Like the killing of snake, everybody has that mindset to be killing snake, and they even bring it to the main road for trailers to come and mark again. So if children are incorporated with this kind of habit, that means we will get to a point that there will be extinction of all these animals. So we need to have that reorientation and put it in our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, want to move on to Dr. Felix. Dr. Nyediesin, sorry. Dr. Nyediesin. We've said something about the parents, said something about government. I want you to educate us about the communities. What are we supposed to do? Members of the communities. We are the teachers and we live in the communities. And then these are students, they don't live in isolation, they live in the communities. What do you want to tell the students and the community members to do to help alleviate these predicaments you are facing?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and the audience. When we talk about climate change, it simply increase in temperature, completely different from what we observed prior to 1960. And what is the cause? Emission of CO2 and what else? So any mitigation strategy has to boil down to reduction in CO2. Communities, what do we do to reduce emission of CO2 or capture CO2? Two things: reduce the emission or capture the one that is already has been emitted into the atmosphere. For community, the second speaker, when he was presenting his paper, mentioned it. We must leverage on indigenous knowledge, traditional indigenous knowledge of conservation. Forests and trees absorb more than 60% of CO2 emitted into the atmosphere. That's why the white men that are the most culprit of CO2 emission does not joke with planting trees. Community must invoke the spirit of conservation. Even forest. That's what I grew up to hear. Don't enter this forest. Nothing is in that forest that is evil. It was their own strategy of saying, don't cut down the trees. Preserve the forest. Then they said, Miriam, you don't kill fishes in this particular stream or river. That's indigenous traditional knowledge. And everybody run away. When you go to the streets, you see fishes everywhere. And all their conserving. Communities must invoke that spirit of conservation. Now, why are we still using fuel wood as energy source, both in the urban centers and rural areas? Why? The first speaker says we must switch to cleaner energies. Why are we still burning firewood? Where is the firewood coming from? From the trees in the forest. So, communities must also try to switch from over-dependence on fuel wood to what? To gas. Not even kerosene or gas. Gas is clean. We must go back to gas or switch to gas. Communities must stop burying people with coffin. Why are you burying people with coffin? Why are you cutting down trees to bury people with coffin? Jesus was wrapped on just a piece of wood and kept there. The same thing with Lazarus. Communities must rise to the advocacy of stopping the use of wood in the forest to prepare coffin, to put manure in the ground. The manure dies, termites eat them up and destroy the wood. It's not history. I've told people when I'm done and I'm going, don't bury me in coffin. I will stand up and deal with people there. Wrap me in a very clean district. If you want to do line instead, go there and check the line instead, because that is not an ADSN. The ADSN is gone at that time. So why waste the resources? Communities must go back to consume locally made products. I hear that in Abuja there is a factory that produces carbon-based bricks for building. Instead of using limestone that Dangote and all these guys are making Yangawe. Because Dangote and all these, they burn a lot of carbon to produce cement and all what have you. So communities must go back to traditional architecture. I took my students in 2010 to Budo Mountain Resort. I was shocked what I saw there. You know, the global teacher was boasting that they went to, where do you call it, and himself and doctor, they were laughing. I said, look at you. I took my students to Budo Mountain Resort. We saw traditional architecture, and that's what drew the white men. They wanted to see this kind of African architecture. No bricks. All the products used to build the houses were traditional. No emission of CO2. Communities must go back to such practices. Now, number 3, communities must eat vegetable. When God created man, He said, eat vegetable. Eat vegetable. When we eat vegetable, the only ways we produce is biodegradables. You throw them, they decay and become manure, as the second speaker said, biodegradables. But when we eat processed food from Dangote, Indomie, and the rest of them, we generate waste that we cannot manage. We burn them and send CO2 into the atmosphere. We must eat vegetable. God said, eat fruits. So this outlandish consumption pattern is not only food, though. He was referring to food when he was speaking. It is luxurious. The standard of living must be high, as if we are going to stay here forever. And because of that outlandish consumption pattern, we overexploit the resources of the earth and send CO2 to the atmosphere. And what are we waiting? We get the result. Now, students, how do students mitigate? I'm done with the communities. Students should protect the trees that are in the school. 2021, we planted green belts and comprehensive secondary school again. In partnership with one NGO. When the trees were growing, I was the compound master, invested energy to water it every morning, every evening. When they were growing, that was the only site that the school chose to build compass lodge. They removed the entire vegetation that we planted, converted it to compass lodge. The remaining part of it, the farming people in the school, those who are always struggling for farm, they say, here we are, they capture. Where are the green belts in the school? It was protected, the student was protected. I swear, the school was protected. Students must manage the lightings in the schools, in the hostels, those of them who are mothers, the lighting. The first speaker talks about energy saving. Energy saving. You cannot keep your lights on in the hostel forever. And when something happens, you now blame the management of the school. But it is the student that causes that. Students must switch from eating Indomie generation of students. We must discourage them. You as parents, stop your children from eating Indomie. Thank God the thing went high, the prices went high. Thank God just stopped everybody from eating. After a while they said dollar has come down. And then everybody went back to Indomie. Because the sachets, you will not throw it away, you will burn it. The Indomie sachets and release CO2 into the atmosphere. Let me conclude. The AKWA conflict that happened 2 weeks ago, that got 14 soldiers killed, was as a result of communities' struggle for resources, as a result of climate change. Our communities, back to them as I summarize, must ensure peace. If the soldiers has reacted, the entire AKWA community would have been grounded. The students would have suffered from not going back to schools because we know what the soldiers can do. It is the Tompolo camp that brought the soldiers, according to what we read, the report, to protect their interests. So, climate change has caused serious communal crisis, struggle for resources in our communities. And the role of the community to stem it is to ensure peace, so that our students can remain in school. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Thank you. I'm sure we are learning. I'm sure we heard some things we never paid much attention to. Now I want to call on another person to tell us, we have the media in our midst, with us, in our communities, in the society. Is there any part the media could play to help take